Hello everyone and welcome to another episode. Before the introduction, I did want to mention that we are talking about the series finales for Ted Lasso, Succession, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Barry. We do not give away any major plot developments about the final episodes of the shows, but do share some less consequential spoilers to help move the conversation along. Welcome everyone to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, a senior producer at Lee and co-host of the program with Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter who is back from the big city, scarfing down dirty water dogs on the sidewalk, right?
You can't beat a city that serves hors d'oeuvres all day long, right? That's New York. But you know, right. I went on the subway. No, I did not get attacked by anybody. And I was reaching for the pole that you grab onto. And apparently the train started moving before I got to it. And just as I grabbed it, I did a pole dance. I was all the way around and on the floor by the end of it. And nobody applauded. Now, how bad is that?
Oh man, you did a show. You were on Broadway, a Broadway performance.
I was on Broadway, right? And then there were a lot of protesters because the Writers Guild strike is still going on. And you saw them out in front of, it used to be MTV, now it's a CBS branded building in Times Square. And so they were marching there and you could vaguely recognize some of the people. You think, well, isn't that somebody who's also a performer? But it will have an impact because the Tony Awards, which are coming up next week, cannot have any scripted material. They can have off-the-cuff introductions, but they can't have, little goofy skits or anything that'll introduce them. So it might be a good award show. We might be able to enjoy just seeing who wins, hear their speech. They won't be, running them off because nobody wrote that stuff. It's all from the heart. So that was interesting to see. And I'll tell you, New York was packed. It was stuffed with people. So it must be back now. People are interested in going and seeing and doing things. And one of the fun things we did get to do while we were there was Lin-Manuel Miranda does a thing every Friday called Ham for Ham. And what he does is he combines his cast from Hamilton with shows that are on Broadway right now. And so it's been all the Tony nominees lately, and they come out and sing a song from their show, and then they move on and they do another show, and it's maybe 15 minutes. And the thing packs the streets. It's wall-to-wall people just watching this, and you get to see all the stars of the show. So it's kind of fun.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you didn't pay $300 for a ticket or have to, wrestle somebody down in the ticket line to try and get there.
It is good for these shows too, especially people go to New York. It's so expensive to go to New York these days. And they have something like that. It's a good way to give back to the community and allow people to experience something that maybe they can't afford.
And, interestingly, you mentioned about how expensive they're charging for bags. Now, come on, you go to a store and they say it's a nickel if you want a bag. What am I going to do? Haul this crap out in my arms and look like I'm not stealing merchandise from their store? A nickel for a bag, they can afford the nickel. You've added in more than that on your fees. But yeah, that was a new one to me, is that I got to pay a nickel to put the stuff in a bag.
Did you grab breakfast from a bodega while you were there?
Did not.
Oh.
Did not. No. I was proud of myself because I only ate burgers once.
Okay.
So that was pretty good. But all during this time, the big thing that was blowing up was Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid was like huge there. People were all rushing to see that. And I finally did see it and I was not impressed.
We talked about this a little bit on our last episode, and neither of us were really thrilled with the concept of remaking a classic Disney cartoon as a live action show.
Well, they've dumped things and added new songs for Lin-Manuel Miranda to write, and they're not that good. They're really not that good. The idea, the young woman, Halle Bailey, who plays Ariel, is good. She's very good, and they've really expanded the part of Eric, the boyfriend. So he's got a whole storyline now too that I didn't really care about. I didn't need it. And then all of those creatures look very scary. Sebastian actually does look like a crab. And Flounder he's out of water more than he's in water. And I'm thinking, how does he do this? This is really weird. But it's excess. It's a lot of stuff and way too much unnecessary stuff. And so, will it do well? I suppose it will, because parents got to take their kids to something, and that's available. But that was a surprise to me. I thought it was going to be a little better, and it wasn't.
Join us at Mervis Diamond this weekend for our very special Viraggio engagement and wedding ring show, combined with our famous mermaid lab-grown diamond show. Our full Viraggio bridal collection will be on view. It's your chance to customize your ring your way. Mermaid lab-grown diamonds are the finest you can get. The quality is amazing, and the value will blow you away. Now you can flash a huge rock, twice the size of what you would have expected, in a gorgeous Viraggio ring at a very affordable price. Love can strike at any time. Celebrate with a mermaid diamond in a Viraggio ring. What's more, with Mervis financing, you can get all of this for less than $200 a month with zero interest for up to 5 years. Select your ideal Viraggio ring and mermaid lab-grown diamonds from the largest selection anywhere in the entire metro area. Only this weekend and only at Mervis. Don't miss this special savings offer. Mervis Diamond Importers. Register at mervisdiamond.com or call 1-800-HER-LOVE.
What is the deal with these actors who suddenly have children when they're in their late 70s and early 80s?
Pacino's got to keep up with De Niro.
I know. I was going to see the De Niro film, and then I thought, oh, do I need this? This is, Father's Day. We'll wait for Father's Day, and I'll go see it then. And then the news breaks about Al Pacino. And you think, what is up with all this? Is this kind of a contest? And maybe it is. Where is Nick Cannon in all of this? Is Nick Cannon still going to be having kids when he's 79 and he'll be up to child 43?
I just saw Harrison Ford with Callista Flockhart. They were at their son's college graduation yesterday.
Well, see then, life is good.
Yeah.
Life is good. But yeah, there are these old guys that are doing a lot of work, which I think is just to be able to pay the bills. And then having new families. These families will never see their dads after they've graduated from high school.
Yeah. It is kind of sad. Personal choices, do whatever you want to do. But I always think about that where, when you're 60, 70, having a kid, you're not going to see this kid maybe even graduate high school.
Yeah, I've had friends who had children, and I'm thinking, I will not get to see this kid get married. Yeah. Because it's enough years that I'm out of here. But it's bizarre. And so, whatever they want to do, let them do it. It's fine. Yeah, but exactly. It also has been a big week for last episodes. A lot of the streaming series have been running their last episodes. Succession was the big one that everybody was waiting for. How will this end? Who will get control of that company? What's going to happen to all of them? I am not a Succession person. I'm counting on you to be my Succession guru.
This season may have been the best. Have been the best. It was so good. It was. I really loved the first season, and even the second season was pretty good. I thought last season was a little all over the place at times because you start getting tired of it, right? The idea of like, okay, it's going to be Kendall, who's the oldest son, but then Kendall has some issues. So then it's going to be Roman, but Roman has a lot of issues. Like Roman is a man-child. And then you have Siobhan, she's a liberal. Will she take over the conservative media company? Is it a fit? So you have all of these things. And then you have Logan, who at the beginning of the series looks like he's not going to have the mental capacity to continue on. And then all of a sudden he's like back and he's fine and he's running things again. You have 4 seasons of constant jockeying. We know Logan, regardless of what you know about the show, there has to be an end. And there obviously is a show called Succession. There has to be somebody at the end that's going to win, regardless of how we get there. Somebody has to get there. This last episode, it was like 90 minutes long. It was basically a movie, and it felt like 15. That's how quickly this thing flew. The only dry spell was there was this moment kind of midway, 2/3 of the way through, where those three kids, Kendall and Roman and Shiv, they kind of got together and they were trying to, come to some sort of agreement. Who's going to run the show? Who's going to take over? And then they kind of have this like playful moment in a kitchen where they're siblings again. They're not these media moguls. And at that point, you're kind of wondering, well, what's going to go on here or not? And, from that point, though, then it gets serious again. And I always felt, I wish I could go back in time and just write down what I thought would happen. And in my head, I had kind of like two possibilities of how the show would end with, who would get it among the cast of characters we know. So obviously,
right?
One of the options could have been somebody comes out of the blue, buys the company, and just takes it. But if it's only the characters we know, who would those characters be? And I wish I could have written them down, put it into an envelope, because the final two were the two that were like down to the wire. And there was like twists and turns, and it always felt like, okay, it's going to go back here, or is it going to go here? And I loved it. I thought it was just like a phenomenal ending to the series.
Could they reboot it with, starting with whomever they had chosen to go ahead, or would that not work?
These characters are so self-absorbed and so crazy. Sure. But I really liked how it ended. It just kind of ended, not like Sopranos ended where,
right.
It went to black. It kind of like got to a point. There was a winner. Somebody came out on top, and then the credits rolled. And that's all you kind of needed, because it was the journey. The show was about the journey, and we finally got there.
This is not a spoiler because everybody should know it by now, but the dad died early in the show this year. Was that a good thing to have him exit that early?
Yeah, I was a little unsure when it happened, but I thought it got him out of the way so it could come down to the kids just fighting with each other. Because as long as Logan was there, he was always the puppet master pulling the strings. So it's like, yeah, Kendall, you're back on my good side. Oh no, Roman, how about we boost you up, and you can be my protege, and why don't you go fire Jerry now? And it's time to get tough. And then or it's like Shiv, like, oh no, Shiv, I think we need a female touch here. It's time for you to take over the company. And he was always playing them off of each other, either on purpose or even just because he was just that kind of guy.
It's like what you do at home, right?
Exactly. Getting him out of the picture just allowed those three to kind of go at it, along with the other half of the company, because it was coming down to, there was a deal on the table to sell Waystar Royco, and there was obviously the faction with the kids, would they sell, wouldn't they sell? And then you have the people that are still on the board that, obviously want to sell to kind of cash out and get their golden parachute. So you have those players, and Alexander Skarsgård, who was playing the character of Lucas Matson, who was the CEO of a streaming giant, Gojo. So he was the one trying to acquire the company, and was really largely replaced Logan as kind of like that hovering figure, but again, they're playing each other to the end. Like they're playing him off of each other. So it was just a really great episode that left you kind of guessing until the end. You kind of, as that episode is slowly coming to an end, you kind of got a sense where it was going. But yeah, it was, a lot. And Cousin Greg, for anyone that loves Cousin Greg, like he plays very prominently in this final episode.
Well, now I'm excited to see it, but I went through a couple of other ones that had their final episodes. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Mm-hmm. Did you see the last of that?
Not yet. I'm like 2 episodes away from getting there.
Okay, it brings everything up to the latest it can, and so you find out what has happened, and you get a chance to see Mrs. Maisel do what I think is her best stand-up routine in the course of all of that. You also find out about the relationship with her ex-husband. You find out about the relationship with Susie, her manager. It's very good, but I really felt that it became the Joan Rivers story. I really think that they were leaning into that a little bit more than you might have wanted. I had a friend who saw it, and he said he was very disappointed in the ending, and he thought that they spilled too many things early on in the last season, where, you know, by doing those time jumps, it kind of ruined the surprises that you get at the end. He said, I already knew what she was going to be like because they had done a 60-minute story on her early on in that run. And so that was interesting to me. I did see the last Ted Lasso, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Not because it was cheesy, which is what I'm hearing all over the place, but because it did wrap things up if they want to end it. You had no questions as to where things were going to go. They talked about, you know, the final game that they had with Ted, and it's no secret that Ted had been plotting to leave the whole season long. It wasn't like suddenly he came in and said, by the way, I'm going to leave. Goodbye. We'll see you all. They were able to address that. And there is one moment with the players, and I kid you not, it's the dumbest move that you'd ever see in a show like this, but it's the perfect move. And the players all get together and say their goodbye to him. And I thought it was remarkable. Cheesy, you betcha. And it was really, really fun to watch. And there were tears throughout the whole thing when he says goodbye to certain people. And again, I don't want to be too specific about this. You feel it because they built this show. This was a pandemic show that we started watching when we were all kind of sequestered. And it was about somebody going outside of their comfort zone, which we were, and went to this team that he knew really nothing about and was able to find his way in with them. And they talk about that believe sign that he put up on the wall and what that meant to the rest of them. And that plays a factor in the final episode as well. So I thought it was very good. I thought it was really good. And I do see an end to it. And I do feel like, all right, the pandemic is largely over. And it's a nice way to end it. You don't need to have like 7 seasons, 20 seasons, whatever it might be of a series to just really appreciate an ending. It's like a British series where it's built to last for maybe 2 years, 3 years, and it's done. And if they want to reboot it, there is an opening to reboot it in a different way.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. Now, I haven't watched the season yet because we've talked about this before. I kind of like add and drop Apple TV, you know, as the wind blows. So I was waiting for it.
Product, and they
exactly
give you a free subscription.
You've read me like a book. So, you know, I'm probably going to resubscribe to it this weekend and just knock through the episodes really, really quick. But the thing that I had read a lot of after those first couple seasons was this was always planned as a 3-season arc. You'd have that beginning, the middle, the end, and that would be it. And Jason Sudeikis was very clear about it. But after that second season, and I think because of the popularity of the show and the awards and the accolades and all that, there was some discussion that like, maybe, you know, yeah, we're going to wrap it up, but maybe
more money.
Not. Yeah. So what do you think? Are we going to see more Ted, or is this really it?
I really think that they could take supporting characters and make them leading characters. And you could continue the story. And you could do a movie too, if you really wanted to. It's interesting because you get to see Ted back home. And I don't see this kind of longing that I've got to be back with my team. I have done that. I'm moving on to something else. So he doesn't need to be in it, but I do think that you could take Rebecca, any of those characters, Keely, any of them, and make a series. And then there's also the team. The team still has another season if they want it. But you do get them in a game situation near the end.
Could we get a spinoff of Roy Kent? That's what I would pay good money for. Perfect. Like a Roy Kent. Oh,
perfect way to do it. I think what they'll do is take a little time and act like they were really thinking about this, and they'll come back with that because it's too good and the characters are too ideal for a situation like this. And again, you can do the short-term run with all of it and nobody's in forever. I enjoyed it, and I think it will lead to something more.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I've been trying to stay away from spoilers or anything. So yeah, I'm gonna resubscribe to Apple TV pretty quickly and jump on this one. You know, there's one other very notable series finale this past week as well, and that's Barry, also on HBO.
Oh, yes. And did you watch?
I did.
And were you shocked at how it
I
ended?
was yeah, I was very, I guess, well, it's a show about a hitman, so you know, I guess we shouldn't be too shocked by what happens. Have you watched Barry at all? Are you a fan of
Yes.
Barry? Yeah.
I know I'm the type, this is me, okay? I'll skip the middle parts and go right to the ending. I am like the type of person who will read the murder mystery, the last chapter, and then go back and see if they did a good job of leading up to it. So yes, I do know how Barry ends. I did see the Barry ending, and I did not see that coming.
I was very surprised. Yes and no. Like, I mean, obviously, it's a show about a hitman. Anything can happen. I thought the ending was, wow, we have no happy endings, I guess.
But it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Right. It does.
That
Yeah.
would be the person. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an episode that I was shocked at kind of how quickly things develop. Like, you know, we're like, okay, we're gonna go do this, and then nope, we're on to the next thing, and then on to, you know, next thing, and then nope, we're on to the next thing. And then the way they kind of like closed up the chapters, you know, each storyline, Barry and Sally and Fuchs and, you know, NoHo Hank, all of those characters, I didn't, you know, if you told me one of those things was going to happen, I'd be like, okay, you know, I could see that. But to have each of those things happen for all of them, I was like, whoa, that's a little shocking. I felt that this season, I liked it. I've always loved the series. I came into it, I think I started watching it maybe near the end of season 2. I didn't watch it the very first season. And then I was talking to somebody one time during that I think it was the final season of the Game of Thrones. And it was the penultimate episode of Game of Thrones, The Long Night, where they're fighting the White Walkers. So the night that aired, there was also a new episode of Barry, and I believe the episode was called Ronnie and Lily. And it was a phenomenal episode where Barry goes to make a hit on somebody. He was like a Taekwondo instructor, but he was also, you know, he needed to be killed for what, I don't even remember the reason at this point. So he does it, and it's a little bit, you know, it doesn't go as planned to begin with. But then after that, Ronnie's like 10-year-old daughter comes out of nowhere and is stalking him for the rest of the episode. And it is like, to go from the Long Night Game of Thrones to this Ronnie Lily episode was just like emotionally draining. And it was crazy. And that was kind of, and that was kind of like, when I heard about that, I whipped back, watched all the episodes, got caught up with Ronnie and Lily. It's like, whoa, how do you drop this episode on the same night as Game of Thrones? So it's kind of a long way of saying, though, is we didn't have in this season that Ronnie and Lily moment. Even the third season, there was this episode where Barry was he was trying to get somewhere. I think he was, you know, going to go see Jean or something. And he ends up in this crazy chase with dirt bikes, and it was like this chase on the highway, and there's crashes and shooting, and it was bananas. And it was like, that was another attempt to do that just crazy off the wall episode. And I don't feel like this season of Barry had that kind of craziness. There was one, you know, like third to last episode of the season where it goes a little bit off into the future, so you can kind of see how things have developed. But yeah, it just never quite hit that craziness for me. And I always feel like with Barry, it's gotten a lot of accolades, it's gotten awards, but it's also never quite cleaned up at the awards season, right? Like they've gotten a few Emmys here, but they've got a lot of nominations. So it's always playing second fiddle to Ted Lasso or something else. Like it's a really good series, but it's just not quite as good as some of the others.
You know, what I find interesting about this is, and you look at both Ted Lasso and Barry, they're both created by people who were on Saturday Night Live, knew that work ethic, and then got into this and realized, I don't want to be stuck for a long period of time. They got great success after their first year, and then kind of, I think, had those moments where they go, all right, can we end this so I can try something else? Because I know what a long run is like, and maybe I don't want that. And as creators with their series, they were writing for everything, and being real big forces in the development of it. They weren't just actors. And so I think that does take its toll. And I think that more than anything will help create more of these short run series. They'll give deals to people, but the people will say, I don't want to go 5 years. I would like to go 3 or maybe 2.
I agree. And I think that this show, it definitely did not need to go any more than this. Like when I knew that Barry was coming back for season 4, part of me was like, please, please, please make this the last season, because I love it, but this is a show that really doesn't need to keep on going on and on and on. And I kind of would have liked it to have wrapped up even after season 3.
It could have been a movie.
Yep.
It could have been a really good movie. And same way with Ted Lasso. That would have been a really cool movie where this goofball from the United States goes to Great Britain, gets involved, very much like these coach stories that we see where the coach kind of pulls this ragtag team up to winners. It's Friday Night Lights or you name it, and could exist as just a film itself. But I'm glad again, it's pandemic time. These were things that got us through those days where we were sitting at home and thinking, what is life like outside my house? And they helped us laugh. They gave us something to care about, and we got involved with the characters. Did you know that there was a huge thing with Jason Sudeikis' shoes, that he had like different shoes on all the time, which I had no clue about until I
no.
reading this, and that he wore different Nike shoes throughout the course of this show, and there were certain pairs that were favorites, and they do come back in the final episode. And if you're one of those shoe fans, you can look and go, oh my God, there's those shoes that they talked about. There they are. And they had some meaning for certain times. So, we'll be rewatching this stuff for years to come.
Several prominent shows are now gone, but that means we've got more to watch. So what's on the horizon?
Well, I'll tell you, I am going to be talking with the folks behind The Wonder Years. Remember, they rebooted The Wonder Years like more than a year ago. And then it's been a big pause ever since. Because there have been some issues. Fred Savage was a producer. He left the show because of some claims about him. And I think they were in a kind of a shift. So I'm talking to people from The Wonder Years, and that'll be coming up this summer in June. It starts in mid-June, and where they go with that. And I've watched some episodes of it, and it is interesting. Very interesting, because it's not the Wonder Years that I remember. It's not like the Fred Savage Wonder Years. It's very much its own show, and I think that's a good thing. It would be a perfect fit with Abbott Elementary if they put the two together.
I have not watched the rebooted. I watched the original pretty religiously, at least through the first few seasons. It was one that I kind of drifted off on as it went along, but have not had a chance to watch the new one.
It's set during the same period, but it's from a Black perspective. And it's really, really, it's interesting how telling some of this is, because you'll remember the situations. You go, yeah, I remember my Black friends acting like that, and I didn't know why. And so Dad gets to work with Marvin Gaye. Mom is singing in the choir. I mean, there are a lot of things that are fun to see in this new season of The Wonder Years. So I think it'll be a welcome summer edition, particularly since we're getting way, way, way too many game shows and reality shows.
Man.
I am tired of Celebrity Family Feud. I am tired of Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. I'm tired of all those things that maybe give somebody a job, but I don't care.
Every commercial I see now on TV is like, we got a new game show coming out. Like, oh no, we have a writer's strike, don't we?
Would you ever go on a game show?
Maybe. There used to be a version of Jeopardy called Rock and Roll Jeopardy, and I would watch it and I knew pretty much every answer. So I kind of wanted to go on that one, but I don't know if I would do that.
I find that I would be the one swearing throughout the whole show because my buzzer doesn't work. Come on, my buzzer isn't working. That's why I'm not getting in. That wouldn't be the answer. Or I'd blurt out the answer before the person got it. So I'd be just a real mess on those shows. But you watch Jeopardy and you think, I'm pretty good at this stuff. But a lot of it has to do when you click in. And I think you have to wait a period of time and then you click in. I don't know. Those stupid Price is Right games where you'll give like $1,200. And then the jerk next to you says $1,201. And you want to kill them. You think right there, I'd kill that person because I do not want somebody to steal my little good bid because you were just standing in the right spot. So anyway, that's what we're looking forward to. Embrace the series when you get them.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap this show and look forward to next week when we talk a little bit more about the Wonder Years. As always, thank you for listening to Streamed and Screened.